we can no longer afford to throw away 97, 98 or 99% of the visitors that come to our website the way we used to. We've got to focus on our ability to turn those into pipeline opportunities, conversations with the sales team, etc., etc. Traffic is down. The cost of every click, paid or earned, is up. And AI, social and search platforms are working hard to keep your buyer in their platforms, not on your website. Today on Websites Decoded, we're talking about what that means for you as a B2B marketer and how you need to respond by bringing a performance mindset to your website. Did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like trying to solve a puzzle with 80% of the pieces missing, or paying for a coffee that's only 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot, unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. When traffic was cheap, low conversion rate, poor conversion rate performance on a B2B website was tolerated, acceptable, the norm. It was usually easier for a marketer to go and get more traffic in significant volumes than it was to face the challenge of improving the website's ability to convert that traffic into high quality, high intent leads that ultimately become pipeline. Not talking here about, leads that download ebooks and so on. But with the landscape around B2B websites changing so dramatically and platforms that buyers use to perform their research working so hard to keep them inside their platform, we can no longer afford to throw away 97, 98 or 99% of the visitors that come to our website the way we used to. We've got to focus on our ability to convert those visitors, the ones that have worked so hard to get to our website. We've got to focus on our ability to turn those into pipeline opportunities, conversations with the sales team, etc., etc. And so conversion rate optimization is no longer something B2Bs can overlook or neglect. It's understandable, however, why they have, because, as mentioned, in the past, it was typically viewed as easier to generate high volumes of additional traffic through the variety of channels and tactics that existed and worked, in years gone by, than it was to apply conversion rate optimization, conventions or best practices to the B2B website. Number of reasons, among them the fact that the majority of B2B marketers don't have the volume of visits and therefore the volume of data on either specific pages or specific elements on pages or their website as a whole sometimes to be able to do the kind of conversion rate optimization that is widely discussed. The A/B tests on relatively minor components of a page and with quick confidence in the results that come back, because if you don't have the volume, you don't get the statistical confidence in that test, meaning you can't really apply that traditional approach to conversion rate optimization. And as a result, I think marketers, saw the challenge that was there and, probably feared doing more harm than good and not being able to measure that or effectively or communicate it or respond or react. And so they've turned away from it. It's made even harder when the website is either owned by parts of the business that don't prioritize revenue. It's viewed and treated as a brand asset, a piece of the brand marketing play, or owned by people whose primary concern or only concern is things other than conversion rate or revenue generation for the business. When that's the scenario, it can be very hard for the people that do want to do conversion rate optimization to get access, get support, and have the ability to do it. So, multiple reasons why it's been hard traditionally for B2Bs to adopt a conversion rate optimization approach to their website. But I think the solution is no longer to look away, neglect, because this is not something we can afford to do anymore. But it's also to reframe the challenge in your mind. And I urge you to reframe the challenge as moving away from the idea of either website is a application of brand and it's a piece of our brand marketing. It isn't. Buyers only get to your website after brand marketing has had its effect in the most case. And away from conversion rate optimization as something that, B2C e-commerce experts talk about, where they test the color of buttons and the size of, images and so on and so forth, and bring instead a performance marketing mindset to the website. And when I talk about performance marketing mindset, I mean, think about how you would go about implementing or optimizing a Google PPC strategy for your business. When we go to Google PPC and we spend our marketing budget there, we look carefully at what drives visitors to those ads. How do we put them in front of them, i.e. targeting, and what determines the effectiveness of those ads in terms of performance. And we use things like click-through rate, the follow-on conversions, impressions, quality score, and lots of other signals to optimize how that ad campaign performs within that platform. And I think you can take the same approach to your website and its conversion rate optimization. If you think about your website through a performance mindset, you can say, well, my first objective is to understand this environment, this landscape. And yes, you may not be able to get the statistical confidence from high volume visits to a test page on your website, but you can research the topic. There are brilliant people out there talking about conversion rate optimization and aggregating findings from across lots and lots of different tests, lots and lots of different websites, and big sample sizes. So while you may not have the sample size that's necessary, the information is out there. I can only recommend that you consume everything by conversion rate experts who share all of their brilliant wins, whether they're B2B or B2C. Nielsen Norman Group to People ER and the Winter team, and us here at Blend, we're always trying to share, like those others, what's worked across the websites that we see in terms of improving conversion rate optimization, results in the form of high intent lead generation, pipeline creation, and revenue, so that when you see something that works and the context is similar enough to your buyer's context, you can feel confident testing it. And I think that approach to conversion rate optimization is the approach to take in B2B. If something works, we say here at Blend, if something works in one situation, if you pull a lever and it has the desired effect, pull it again, either for the same, scenario, the same buyer, the same product, the same client in our case, or for the same website in your case on a different page in a different part of the process. Ultimately, tests that work are usually not completely 100% bespoke to the business that's trying them. They're driven by buyer psychology and buyer behavior more than they are by the products on offer. So therefore, they may well work. And I think if you take insights and take learnings from those great resources that have looked at many, many different sites, you can overcome the lack of data that you will experience when you apply to your website. You can allow experiments to run for longer. You can do them in series rather than in parallel. And you can measure lift in high intent lead generation rate, pipeline creation and revenue, as well as potentially on-page interactions and clicks and conversions if you have the ability. But my experience is in B2B, we sometimes lack the direct measurable element, the on-page conversion, the button click, that tells us exactly what we want to know, and we have to look at an indicator further down the purchase path. I want to tell you about a podcast that's essential for understanding how AI is reshaping B2B marketing. Marketing Against the Grain, hosted by Kip Bodnar and Kieran Flanagan from the HubSpot Podcast Network. They consistently translate the latest AI developments into actionable marketing strategies you can actually implement. In one episode on loop marketing, they tackle a critical reality. 58.5% of Google searches now end without a click, and traditional linear funnels are becoming obsolete. If you're building websites that actually convert, you need to understand the marketing strategy behind them. Marketing Against the Grain, available wherever you get your podcasts. Another impact of AI on the B2B website challenge, which I think is beneficial for all, is it's actually helping us to double down on something that's always been true, which is bigger does not equal better. A lot of the time, the challenges and frustrations that arise during website refreshes, website updates, and website optimizations is the size of the task, because websites typically become bloated. And, funnily enough, in the majority of cases, a bigger website does not equal a better website in terms of performance. It's not unusual to see websites grow in size to house content that is created to meet internal wishes or requirements, not visitor requirements, not user requirements or buyer requirements when they visit your website, which leads to more pages to manage and update. It leads to more complex navigation, and so many businesses end up in a situation where navigation is so complicated that creates choice paralysis for buyers, and that decreases the conversion rate further. It's always been easier to optimize a smaller, tighter, more well-organized website that's closely aligned to information that buyers need about products, services, and solutions, pricing, implementation, methodologies, and support, for example, rather than information about the corporate culture, the audiences, use cases, and customers that you serve. These kinds of information aren't part of what the buyer typically navigates to on your website. AI is reinforcing the idea that we can have a tight, lean, customer-focused website on the front end with a library of rich, diverse content in the background, which is increasingly optimized for discovery and use within AI answers. And that's the place where you can have articles, use cases, industry pages, all optimized for the AI search, retrieval and synthesis process, combining your insights into the markets and the challenges that people face, data from your own work and successes in the area, information about industry standards, accreditations, credentials that are required, and so on and so forth. These all work really well within content that's discovered and used by AI, but doesn't have to come onto your website's main structure, doesn't have to come onto your website's navigation, meaning you can focus all of your performance mindset, your conversion rate optimization focus, onto the pages that buyers are looking for and visiting already, and not be distracted or stopped altogether because there's a mountain of other pages that you feel you've got to optimize at the same time. So bigger is not better, and AI is helping us to return back to a good place in that regard. And given the way that traffic is changing, taking that performance mindset to your website is not only critical, but a really good way, I think, to overcome the challenges that have typically held back conversion rate optimization within B2B organizations. Most B2B teams don't realize how much their website is holding them back. VDOT were generating strong demand, but their site just wasn't converting it. We rebuilt their site with their buyers in mind, sharpened the experience, and aligned it to their goals. Within 90 days, high-intent conversions increased by 100%, and demo requests rose by 14%. This is what happens when your website finally works as hard as your marketing. If you think yours might be holding you back, let's start the conversation at blendb2b.com.